I'm going to spend the rest of my time in the evening talking about why there aren't more women at the top, why there should be, why having a woman at the top in the county attorney's position has made a difference in that office. So let's take a little test. There are 198 rulers and heads of state in the world. Do not count kings and queens. They're just figureheads. How many of them are women? 4, 3, 35. Well, 4 and 2 is a little bit low. These are the women at the top. There's only 22 of them. And that is an unprecedented number because 2 years ago there were only 15. So these women, their personal passion, their individual vision propelled them to the top, to the highest positions of power and authority in their nation. But let's pause and imagine a different world. What if there were 198 rulers in the world, 176 of them were women, and only 22 were men? What would the world be like then? I put Angela Merkel's picture up because she was first elected in 2005, and she's the longest serving female head of state in the world. Almost all of those other 22 women were elected after 2009. And she's only been in power for 9 years. She's the Iron Lady of Europe and a significant player on the world front. The United States, we know, has never had a female president or a vice president, so gender is the most restricting force in every aspect of American life. Compared with other democracies, we are extraordinarily slow to elect women, who are the majority of the citizens in this country, to any high public office. Although we think of ourselves as leaders in all things progressive, the fact is that 26 other countries granted women the right to vote before we did. And the same is true of electing women as their leaders. Well, it's not as though women haven't tried. There are 35 women who've received their party's nomination to run for president, including Wonder Woman. Most of the women who've run for president are unknown, and they represented parties that arguably merit obscurity. So, for instance, in 1872, a woman by the name of Victoria Woodhull ran under the Equal Rights Party. And for those of you that might remember a few years back, in 2012, Roseanne Barr ran for the Peace and Freedom Party. Although their candidacy may generate amusement, it's still, these women mounted platforms to speak their issues, and they were courageous in doing so. We've had several really incredible women run for office who were not nominated for their party. I can think of Elizabeth Dole, Carol Moseley Braun, and Hillary Clinton, none of whom won the nomination to actually represent their party for the election. And there's also Margaret Chase Smith, Patsy Mink, Shirley Chisholm, Pat Schroeder, and the other three I already mentioned. Although many, many women have risen to the top in their profession, we have slowly and steadily made some progress. We significantly lag behind, and that always breaks my heart. The reality of the hard facts that there's only 22 women currently in power in the world today that are presidents, prime ministers, or heads of state, and less than 8% of all the people elected to congresses or parliaments or in the world are women. Less than 8%. That means 92% of all the people who represent 50% of the people on the planet who are women are the men. There are 20 women elected to serve as United States senators. Not one of them is from Arizona. That's slightly more than 1%. There have been over 12,000 individuals who have served in the House of Representatives. Only 298 of them have ever been women. That's just, if my math is right, and Bill, you can correct me if it's not, that's around 1%. There are 435 members in the House of Representatives. Only 75 of them are women. Only 5 women have served in Congress from Arizona, but these are 5 very significant women. We've got Isabella Greenway, Karen English, Gabby Giffords, Ann Kirkpatrick, and Kirsten Sinema, 2 of whom are running for their seat today. Only 35 women have ever served as governors of any state in the United States. 5 currently serve today. Last year there were 6. One of the women lost her election. 24 states have never, ever had a female governor. Now, I was talking with Bill earlier, and he was telling us we're 49th in healthcare, 49th in education in the United States. But guess what? We're first in something. We are one of only 2 states that have elected female governors from both parties. We're the first state where a woman was elected to follow another woman. That was Janet Napolitano, who followed Jane Hall. We are the state that has had the most female governors ever, 4 of them. And after this election, this will be the first time since I was elected as county attorney that we've not had a woman leading the state as our governor. Yeah, we'll miss her. Generic her. Okay, we are 50% of the population, but we're not 50% of the positions of power. Things aren't really moving. If it keeps going at this pace, it's going to be our great-great-great-great-great-granddaughters who will eventually, hopefully, operate in a world that is defined as much by women as it is by men. So despite a few exceptions, we are not equal in the corporate world either. I was talking about the political world. This was a headline in the Huffington Post 2 years ago. 2012 marks a new high for the number of female CEOs. And this year, right now, there are 23 women running Fortune 500 companies. That is a very small, slowly growing group. You think, wow, 23. But, and there they are, all 23. They fit all on one slide. I should have to have 15 slides to get all the women that are Fortune 500 company CEOs on here. Here's the problem with that number. That still leaves 459 men running the top 500 corporations in America. Women still control less than 3% of the Fortune 500 companies. And 9 out of 10 corporate boards have no women on them whatsoever. They are all the policy decisions are made by men. That's got to change. Let me explain why. Here's an emerging and an encouraging trend. Women outpace men in college enrollment and graduation rates. In the span, yeah, we deserve an applause. So much so that there are articles that are being written in magazines about why are we leaving our boys behind. In the span of a single generation, it's been one generation, college and university enrollment has reversed. It has become predominantly female instead of male, which is a really good sign for gender equality, right? Yeah. The national trend for undergraduate enrollment is 57% female, 43% male. Women outpace men in college graduation rates too. 59% of the women in college graduate compared to 41%. And the number, and you can see that blue line, it's falling. Men are not graduating from college at the rates that they used to. That's a sociological problem that is very concerning. Women also are earning better grades. They graduate in higher numbers. They earn more honors. They're far less likely to be on academic probation, and they earn more advanced degrees, more master's degrees and doctorate degrees. However, despite that advance in academic enrollment, And despite the fact that we've overtaken men in medical schools, 57% of the enrollment in medical schools is women, 55% in law schools and increasing, and 80% in veterinary schools are women. Gender equality hasn't arrived, ladies. Men still dominate in these positions. They hold 85% of the upper management and decision-making positions. They earn higher salaries than women in the same positions. They head the majority of the medical schools and hospitals. They manage the major law firms. And 84% of the firm equity partners are men, and 85% of the seats on the firm governing committees are men, and that is a significant problem. It will change, but it's going way too slowly. They hold the majority of the nation's judicial positions. That, I want to report, is significantly changed in Arizona. When I first started as a deputy county attorney, there was one woman on the Superior Court bench. That was Alice Truman. And now almost 50% of the bench is made up of women. Oh, this is a sad reality. But wait, there's more. In the race to the top, men are still coming in first. Women earn less than men. Men are promoted with more frequency. And so now I've talked about all that. What in the world are the implications of all of this? So for me, what we're striving for is, for women is to have the same equality that men enjoy. That's all, just the same. So that means that what we're looking for is 50% of our equality. So academia, presidents, deans, department heads, chairs, full professors, fully half of them should be women, particularly when they're graduating at a higher rate than the men. When 20% of the women of color and 50% of the law firm partners are women, when 50% of the members of Congress are women, when 50% of the corporate boards have women on them, etc., then there's going to be some equality. When women are at the top, the question becomes, is the world a better place? Would things... So if the answer is a resounding yes, how are we going to fix this? What are we going to do? How are we going to change the numbers at the top? What are you going to do to make this different? Well, here's just one reason, and I put this in there for the Westcotts and their firm, but investors get better returns on their money when there's women at the top. I found this really interesting. There's research that shows that when a woman is in charge of a corporation, they tend to generate better returns for their investors. It's a financial reason. It's one everyone should understand. I don't know why this is so, and it may be the way in which their management of the company is, but research has shown that U.S. companies that have more women in senior management positions earn a significantly higher return on equity than companies with fewer women at the top. And one study found that companies with the highest representation of women on their senior management teams had a 35% higher return on equity and a 34% higher return to shareholders. So those of you that have stock portfolios, go back and look and find out how many have women in those positions, because you're going to get a better return on your investment if you invest in those kinds of companies. Company share prices almost always go up. Stock price oftentimes increases by as much as 2%. Now you go, when a woman is announced to be on the top and in a corporate senior management position. Now, you're wondering how much 2% matters. Well, take note that of the companies involved in this research, They had book assets exceeding 500 million. So wouldn't you like to make 2% of 500 million? Because if my math is correct, that's around 10 million. Yeah. So the market, for some reason, seems to react to the gender of the executive. So now I hope you're intrigued by that. So why is it important to have women in leadership? Because there are many other reasons besides financial. It's vitally important to have women in leadership. We have to ask ourselves that question. Why is it important for anyone that women be as equal as men in achieving positions of power and authority? Why is it important for your children, for communities, for the world, for the nation, for the family? And the answer, I think, is very, very clear. Because the struggles that we've had in our country and across the world for freedom, equality, justice, self-determination have been fought and won because of inspired, passionate, and determined women. Each one has proven that one woman or women working together can make a difference. And the bottom line is, and why is that? Because the bottom line is that issues important to women are the issues that matter to women and the issues that they work on. Now, I don't mean to imply that men do not join us and don't participate with us, because they do. There are many, many, many men who join in and help our issues. But it's almost always a woman that initiates the fight to begin with. And here are the issues that I think are most important to us as women. Their work, family, children, education, equal pay and benefits, health, the environment, equality in the political, social, financial, racial, gender worlds. Those are the issues that are most important to us. So when we elect women at the national level, but also at the local, city council, county, school board level, when women are in charge in the corporate world, when women step up to roles of leadership, those issues that I just mentioned are the ones that come to the forefront. They become the priority for us as women. And it's through our own passion, our commitment to leadership, our drive to achieve these identified and envisioned goals that we put aside partisanship and we work together for the common good. Not all women, but the majority absolutely do. So historically, look who brought you the following things: the right to vote, the abolishment of child labor, living wage laws, the fight for pay equity, maternity benefits, parental leave, the environmental movement, birth control, Title IX, and that one is a special one for me, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. Harriet Tubman, her passion and her leadership brought us the fight to end slavery. She was born a slave. She became an activist, an abolitionist, a suffragette, and a Union spy. And she led the Underground Railroad, and she helped thousands and thousands of slaves find freedom. Jane Addams turned the nation to issues of deep concern to mothers, the needs of children, public health, world peace. She helped pass the first model tenement code to get rid of the tenements that were so sorely harming people, the first factory laws, and the child labor laws. Susan B. Anthony championed the right of women to vote and run for office. She advocated for suffrage, the abolition of slavery and women's rights. She campaigned for women to own their own property and to retain their own earnings. And women could work before, but they had to turn over everything to their husbands or their fathers. In 1910, she persuaded the University of Rochester to admit women. You all know what Rosa Parks did, and she started that fight against segregation by being a passionate and determined woman. Lillian Better and the Fair Pay Act in a move to close that gender wage gap. She gave people the ability to file a complaint without having to wait. Patsy Mink. Title IX. She's my heroine. I would not be in law school, would not have been able to have been admitted without Title IX. Title IX was passed the year I was admitted into law school, 1972. It prohibited gender discrimination by any institution that received federal funds. And it basically said that no person shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in or be denied the benefits or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. We often think of Title IX as just paving the way for women in athletics. But what it did is it opened up institutions of higher learning to women. The year before I applied to law school, there were quotas for women. There were anywhere from 3 to 5 women admitted to law school every year. When I applied and I was admitted, there were 35 women. 35 women at the U of A Law School. Of course, there was only one stall and one bathroom. But that has changed, and now more than half of the law school admissions every year are women. So Patsy Mink is one of my heroes. Margaret Sanger. She was a nurse, a birth control activist, and a sex educator. Her activism, this is just so astounding, was influenced and prompted by what she saw as the suffering of women that she had witnessed because of frequent pregnancies and their self-inflicted abortions. Her own mother had 18 pregnancies in 22 years, and she died at age 50. So Margaret Sanger worked very hard to found the first birth control clinic and Planned Parenthood and contributed to the U.S. Supreme Court case which legalized contraception in the United States. So, when we as women step up to roles of leadership, the issues that we are most concerned about become our priorities.